All right, we will call the meeting of the Village of Beach Park Village Board to order. This is the regular meeting of February 25th, 2021. It is 7:04 p.m. And I would ask that the clerk would please call the roll.
Trustee Gust.
Here.
Trustee Jensen.
He's here. He waved.
I see him. Trustee Miller.
Here.
Trustee Otterson.
Here.
I know he's there. Trustee Siddick. No. Trustee Wells.
Here.
And we have Attorney Brogan.
Present.
Mayor Hooker.
Here.
And Clerk McDonald is present.
All right. We have a quorum. I would ask you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the
of the
United
United
States
States of America,
Republic,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Siddick is.
Did Trustee Siddick just join us?
Yes.
I just check one more time. Linda, are you on the call? Okay.
Muted, that's her number.
Linda's on the call, but she's muted. At least her phone's on the call.
Oh, it is, yeah. Okay.
All right, we'll move on. We have our next item of business tonight is the public comment for any agenda items. This would be the time, first opportunity for public to speak to the board. This would only pertain to any agenda items. Second, towards the end of the agenda will be an opportunity for any and all discussion with the board. And I see Attorney Farrell has just joined the call. Welcome, Jim. And is there any member of the public that would wish to address the board on any of the agenda items? Please unmute yourself and then state your name and your case.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Okay, and who are we speaking to?
Bob Johnson, Beach
Okay.
Park.
Mr.
Listen,
Johnson.
I just want to bring up one thing that's coming up before the board in regards to Trustee Wells' his ordinances that are coming up with the contractor
Okay,
and also the landscaper. I was watching as they put this before the zoning board, and the zoning board, I didn't find anyone on there that brought up the fact of the hours of operation. And I just want to make sure that because it is, they are within 1,000 feet of residential. Is there going to be something on there about making sure that they're not, because they usually start early in the morning and sometimes late at night. So that's the only thing I had to bring up. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, is there any other public that wishes to address the board? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. What we have on the consent agenda tonight is approval of the village board regular meeting minutes from February 11th, 2021, the finance report, public safety report, both from January of 2021, and bills presented for payment in the amount of $132,573.47. Do we have a motion to approve the consent, or excuse me, first, before the motion, is there anything that the board would have considered separately from the consent agenda? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion by Trustee Otterson. Do we have a second?
Second, Miller.
Second by Trustee Miller. Discussion. All right. Hearing none, ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Gust,
Aye.
Trustee Jensen,
Aye.
Trustee Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Addison,
Aye.
Trustee Siddick. No. Okay, Trustee Wells.
You try and unmute trustee Siddiq.
We're going to try to, we believe trustee Siddiq is speaking, but we're not hearing her.
I didn't hear trustee Wells either.
Yeah. neither did
I could read his lips though.
I see him.
Oh, I heard it that time.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
All right. Present and accounted for. Did you, what was your vote on the consent agenda?
Yep, that was I.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
All right. We have nothing particular for the mayor's report tonight. We do have our trustee reports next. First up, we have the Finance Committee. Trustee Jensen is our chair. What have you got for us, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. Short report tonight. We had our Finance Committee meeting last night. The next one will be the 24th of March. No doubt virtual again for the time being. And we're working on budget. We went over the revenue and the revenue projections for the coming fiscal year. And I don't recall off the top of my head, but I'm sure we'll be working on the expenditure budget at the next meeting. That's all I have to report.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on, Parks and Recreation. Trustee Gust.
Thank you, Your Honor. As much as I hate to say it, I do not have anything for report tonight, sir.
It
And that
doesn't
ends
look,
my report.
it's not looking good for seeing you all dressed up in green.
Oh, my God, I'm gonna have to do it just to break the monotony, I guess. Maybe I'll dress up and just drive around and stop here and there.
Just drive around.
I even bought a green mask for
Oh, boy.
The sheriff's department will be right behind you.
Only if you call them, young man. Thank you for that, Mark.
All right. Moving on then, Planning and Zoning Committee, Trustee Wells, what have you got for us?
Hear me first of all. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Hardly. Get
Yeah,
up in the mic, Larry. Get up in the mic. Pretend you're hollering at your kids.
Good one.
He's never done that. That's a, he probably is.
Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Better, yes.
Okay. First, we have for your consideration, a motion to adopt an ordinance amending Village of Beach Park Municipal Code, Title 17 zoning relating to contractors, equipment, storage yards in the Green Bay, Wildwood Overlay District, and dwelling units within the CS District. A little background on this. We had a Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals meeting on February the 4th, 2021. Public hearing was held regarding the petition for the Village of Beach Park for zoning code text amendments relating to contractors and storage, contractors equipment storage yards in Green Bay, Wadsworth Overlay District, and dwelling units in the CS District. If approved, the amendments will achieve the following: establish a definition for contractors equipment storage yard. Number 2, correct an unintentional omission of contractors equipment storage yard from the list of conditional uses in the Green Bay, Wadsworth Overlay District in locations with non-residential underlying zoning. Number 3, it would address the discrepancy between the regulations pertaining to the existing residential uses in different locations within the CS District. The petition and recommended approval. An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance has been prepared for the board's consideration. Next, it should be noted that that there is an ordinance approving the conditional use permit at 12454 West Wadsworth Road, that is subject to the prior approval of this zoning code text amendment. And I'd like to entertain that in the form of a motion. Mr. Mayor, also, Andrew might have some additional information he would like to elaborate on. By chance regarding clarification of this amendment.
Sure. All right. So we have a motion by Trustee Wells,
Second, Miller.
second by Trustee Miller. Thank you. Discussion. I know these are, we're cleaning up a couple issues, the unintentional omission of the contractor storage yard from the CS zone, which is the contractor storage zone, and our contractor service, commercial service. That's typically where the contractors would be. And then secondly, addressing the issue that I actually found myself in with the existing residents within the CS district. So straightforward, as far as the zoning changes, not a tremendous impact on that from the text amendment side of things. Andrew, did you have anything else that the board should know on this?
There you go. No, I think Trustee Wells summed it up pretty well. These are relatively minor amendments. I would view them, as was just said, as a correction, correcting an omission, clarifying a definition for contractor storage yard that it's an existing use that isn't defined. And I had recommended that it be defined while we were working on these other amendments. So I have nothing else to add. Be happy to answer any questions that anyone has on it.
Okay.
Would this fall under the normal ordinances for work hours or noise ordinances?
There's nothing in particular in this text amendment that would impact the work hours.
Right. Typically, construction work hours would be a regulated activity in the sense of a construction site, or that type of thing. But normal business operations, they're not addressed, at least in these amendments. It would be the same as any other standards for the CS district.
I'm not trying to complicate things, but I see that the petitioner is on the line. Is that
well?
That he could address?
We will be addressing his particular petition, which is
the first one is the text amendment.
Yeah, the first one is the text amendment corrections, and then certainly we can dive into part two. All right. Any other questions or discussion? All right. Hearing none, I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Jensen,
Aye.
Trustee Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Addison,
Aye.
Trustee Siddick,
Aye.
Trustee Wells,
Muted. Trustee Wells is muted again. There it is.
Aye.
Thank you.
and Trustee Gust.
Aye.
All right, motion carries, and the ordinance number is?
6.
And number 6. All right, Trustee Wells, please proceed.
Next, we have for your consideration, motion to adopt an ordinance approving the petition of Crescencio and Josu Padron for conditional use permit for contractors, equipment storage yard, and caretakers dwelling at 12454 West Wildwood Road. A little bit of background on this one. At the same Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of February 4th of 2021, a public hearing was held regarding the petition of Crescencio and Josu Padron for conditional use permit to allow contractor equipment storage in the caretaker's dwelling unit at 12454 West Wadsworth Road. The commission discussed the petition and recommended approval subject to several conditions of approval. The ordinance prepared for the board consideration includes an additional condition that was not included in the commission recommendation. New condition of approval would limit the CUP to the current petitioner, consistent with the typical practice of the village. See section 6, conditional use approval number 8. The commissioners discussed this during the hearing, but did not explicitly include it when they were making the motion. You noted that the conditional use permit is subject to the approval of a village petition for a zoning text amendment that would insert the contractor storage equipment yard in the list of conditional use in the Green Bay Road Wadsworth Overlay District, the non-residential underlying zoning. And that was the one that we just addressed. then I'd like to entertain that in the form of a motion.
All right, we have a motion by trustee Wells. Do we have a second?
Miller.
Second by trustee Miller. Discussion.
Same question. I just because there was a question from the public, understanding that things happen occasionally during snow plowing season and things like that, if that's part of the business, but would the petitioner like to make any statement as to what their normal operating hours are?
Hello, everybody.
Mhm.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So our normal business hours, we typically get to the yard at about 6:20, turn on our trucks, warm them up, and we leave at about 7, between 7 to 7:30. And we typically don't get back until about 5 or 6. As far as making noise, the only noise that would really be made is just when we turn on our trucks, because it's just going to be a yard for us to have our vehicles and our trucks and our forms and things like that, just to be able to get there and leave.
Yep.
Okay.
We do have 2 skid steers, in which when it does come down to the snow, we do use them to go ahead and clean up, and we will use them to clean up what we plan to be doing in the back. But that's really about it.
So you're probably
What
not
do you
going to
plan on in the back?
What was that?
You mentioned that whatever you're cleaning up in the back, what would that be?
Well, the snow, because what we plan to be doing, it's a pretty decent amount of asphalt that we're going to be laying down. So that's what we want to use. We'll use our machines to clean up the snow. That way we can have our paths cleared.
Yep.
But I would think chances are you're not going to be making a lot more noise than the airport directly across the street, right?
Oh, no, I mean, we're kind of going to be showing up and leaving. We do a lot of work out in the North Shore area, Chicago, Evanston. So, I mean, we're going to be there, but we're really not going to be there at the same time.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on the motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to clarify that Mr. Padron, most of the activities of the operation is generally done off-site.
Yes. As far as doing anything there, the only things we'd be doing is just putting our forms onto our trailers and then just taking off. But I mean, as far as when we go ahead and if we get approved for everything, doing all the improvements that we want to do, we are going to be doing most of the work ourselves. But I do know that, we have hours that we have to obligate by. And I know I wouldn't want anybody waking me up at 5:30 in the morning unless it's my kids.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, I think we normally have the ordinance. Isn't it 8 a.m. or is it 7 a.m.?
We don't have an ordinance particular to a contractor operating on his own property. We have ordinances about noise created from construction like if someone was building a home or a business.
Right.
Construction activity hours are 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., but that's, as you indicated, for the actual act of constructing, not generally for general operations.
Yeah.
But there also is, we do have a noise ordinance that prohibits excessive noise. So we do have a tool in the event this becomes a problem.
Yeah. I would also.
Right, and plus you have the nuisance ordinance, correct?
Yeah, it's under the there's a noise ordinance specifically under chapter 9 under excessive noise. So there is a tool in the event there's an issue.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. Ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Addison,
Aye.
Trustee Siddick,
Aye.
Trustee Wells,
Aye.
Trustee Gust,
Aye.
Trustee Jensen.
He is muted.
Somehow I got muted. Aye.
All right, motion carries. That would be ordinance number 7. All right, anything else from Trustee Wells? Okay. Moving on then to Public Relations and Intergovernmental Agreement Committee, Trustee Miller.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're going to be given a presentation tonight, and this is involving the Housing Action Plan and the Homes for a Changing Region team. And first of all, this is an item for discussion only, has no impact to our budget, and it is in line with our village priorities, which are partnering with other entities on projects, continuing to improve communication with residents through website and other methods, and learn where new residents are coming from. So just a little background on this effort. The Homes for a Changing Region program is an effort by the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, also much easier known as CMAP, which a lot of us are familiar with now, the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus and the Metropolitan Planning Council. And this is an effort that started with the team and our staff and members of the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee. There was a meeting in March and then 2 more in August of last year. The meetings in August were panel discussions from experts involved in various housing agencies and service providers, a few of whom are with us tonight on this call. So the actual end product of the project is a housing action plan, and it's going to summarize analysis of housing trends and needs in Beach Park, along with some recommendations that the team has focused their efforts on and all their knowledge. So I would like to turn this now over to Andrew, and he can introduce us, the board and the mayor, to our guests.
Thank you, Trustee Miller. Just before I hand this over to Nancy and Enrique and Kyle, this is a really good opportunity for us as a staff to work with a wide variety of people. CMAP, the Mayor's Caucus, the Council, Metropolitan Planning Council, have a good handle on the region. It's a great opportunity for us to get a look at what's working in other towns, things that can be replicated here, things that might not be replicated exactly, but could spur us on to creative solutions that work well. It's a good networking opportunity to understand what some of our peers are doing and get access to service providers and experts in a variety of fields. So I really do appreciate all the hard work that they did. The analysis alone, right at the beginning of their memo, the analysis, just their ability to put into context the data that they went through for us is really valuable and really helpful. Let alone the implementation recommendation. So I would like to hand it over to Nancy, who I believe is going to introduce the team. But I just wanted to thank everyone. It was a lot of hard work. You guys had to sort of change how you handled it mid-COVID. So pulling off the panel discussions, it took some extra work. So I really appreciate all the hard work. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Andrew and Mayor. First of all, I want to say it was a pleasure working in Beach Park. Started with normal times and ended up with COVID. So it has been a little bit of a challenge, but a good one, I think, and hopefully we'll have a chance to get together when COVID's over again and kind of go over anything. But so I'm here with the team that I've been working with. I am with the Metropolitan Planning Council. I come with a little bit of experience. I was the mayor of Glenview for 8 years, when some of you may be familiar with the Glen. So it was one of my big projects. So it's always great when I get to now come and work in communities in a different capacity. But I would like to, I'm going to have my team members introduce themselves, and I'm going to start with Kyle Smith. So Kyle, I know you're there.
I'm Kyle Smith. I am with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. Happy to be here, and I'll be running the slideshow tonight.
And Enrique.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for having us. My name is Enrique Castillo. I am with the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, also known as CMAP for short. And I've been with CMAP for quite some time now, doing some housing work through the homes team now. So thank you for having us, and we look forward to your comments and questions at the end of the presentation.
And we have one more team member, Diana. I think you're here. If you would introduce yourself.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Diana. I'm also with the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. I'm very happy to be here.
And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Enrique, who is going to take you through our PowerPoint slides. And here we go.
Thank you so much. So just a real quick background, just so that everyone is on the same page. Homes for a Change in Region initially started back in 2005, and since 2010, we've created this partnership between the three organizations, CMAP, MMC, and MPC. Between the three organizations, we have partnered up for over a decade now on Homes for a Change in Region. The program develops housing policy plans with communities across the Northeastern Illinois region. And the homes process is, it helps set the table for affordable housing in communities and around the region by addressing pressing housing issues. Next slide, please. So like I said, we've been doing this for quite some time, but now we are in a new iteration of the Homes for a Change in Region, which we are providing fast, highly targeted technical assistance to the communities. And then now we're including the Illinois Housing Development Authority, also known as IDA. So now that IDA is a full partner, we will be using data as direct stakeholder input to help each community identify important housing needs at all levels, including housing for low and moderate income families. So now we can also count on IDA's experience in housing development and many of the tools and resources that they have to offer as we are working throughout the action plan and putting together policy recommendations. You know, it's a big plus. It's a big plus to the program. It's something new that we've been doing now for the past couple of years, and we've seen pretty big results just having those additional resources that IDA has to offer. So I also want to note that this is possible by the Illinois Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This grant fund funds the work that we are doing through homes to help create and preserve affordable, decent, and safe housing for low-income households throughout Illinois. Next slide, please. Oh, you're on the right slide. Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about the process. As Andrew did say, you know, we did start last spring, last spring what we did was a housing analysis. You know, we looked at both the quantitative and qualitative data. We used the census. We used different data points to bring together that analysis. And the analysis is actually going to be an appendix attached to the actual final action plan, so that you have all the data that we pulled. So we brought all that data to the group and we presented it. We wanted to make sure that the data was matching up with what people were actually seeing in their communities. And based on that conversation, we were able to put together an expert panel. This expert panel talked about some of the trends and the key themes that we found out and we discussed as a group. And that panel actually consisted, well, it was a little different. We actually did, since it was our first panel that we did during COVID, we actually split it into two parts. So for the part one, we brought in David Newman, who's the city administrator for Harvard. We brought in Don Owen, Deputy Village Manager of Glenview, Illinois. And then Amy Bashadi, Community Relations Planning Specialist for IDA. And in the second part of the panel, we brought William Eldemir, Senior Program Officer, Community Affairs for IDA, and then Rob Anthony, who is the President of Community Partners for Affordable Housing. We brought in these panelists and we selected these panelists based on, you know, the key themes that we saw. And maybe they were able to see these key themes in their community and how they address them, and then and then also give us some examples on how they tackled these issues that they saw. So after that conversation with the expert panel, We actually then take that information, those conversations, and we synthesize them into the actual plan where we put together some policy recommendations for the for Beach Park to take back and hopefully helps them with their key issues. Next slide, please. So I do want to point out 4 key trends that we saw based on the data, based on those conversations that we had. The first one was that Beach Park residents are aging in place, especially homeowners. 2 out of 10 homeowners are over the age of 65. 2 was some rental housing is unaffordable. 1 out of 4 renters are paying more than 30% of their income. So at that point, we know that we have renters that are cost burdened when it comes to affordability. Another trend that we saw was other rental housing is affordable and can be preserved. 1 out of 10 residential units are the mobile homes that you have in your community. And then last, that there's an opportunity for better integration of the mobile home parks along Sheridan. So based off of those trends that we just identified, we then brought in that expert panel to talk a little bit more about what they did. And then from there, we were able to pull out a few recommendations, 5 short-term recommendations that the village could take. So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to hand it over to Kyle so you could talk a little bit more about those recommendations.
Thank you, Enrique. I'm just following up quickly on Enrique's synopsis of the initial analysis. There was a pretty ample discussion at all of the meetings, but back in these pre-COVID days, at the kickoff meeting in particular, about those mobile home parks. Not just the housing within the parks, but their interaction with the broader Sheridan Road corridor and what that meant for an economic development vision. So many of our recommendations center around that dynamic, although they're not exclusive to it. In total, we recommended 5 short-term steps for the village in this action plan. 1 is to engage in a corridor-wide plan for that stretch of Sheridan Road with a focus on housing and commercial development in a planning process not unlike the Trails Plan Beach Park and its neighbors just completed with CMAP. To focus on some short-term steps and then some capital improvements to integrate the homes with the broader community. To look into adding new senior housing to give seniors another option among those that are aging in their homes, possibly downsize and open up their homes to other buyers. To advertise home ownership and rehabilitation programs available through Community Partners for Affordable Housing and through IDA. And then finally, to explore a renter rights program to help renters in the community. So just briefly touching on this corridor-wide plan concept, we talked quite a bit at the expert panel about Glenview and other communities that have had opportunity sites interacting with some of these housing developments. And we really thought that a integrated corridor-wide plan, similar to what has been conducted in other areas, would be beneficial, not just to think through the interplay between potential development properties and existing housing, but just understand also what the market can absorb and how it can link to the trail improvements that have been proposed. So we suggest that if interested, the village consider a corridor-wide plan that builds on some of the analysis conducted in this action plan, but also sets goals and priorities for those specific sites. And there is assistance available for this potentially through Enrique's and Diana's organization, CMAP, which very recently published the trail plan that you and your neighboring communities have completed. The second area of recommendations that we looked at were strategies to better connect the mobile home park with the remainder of the village. And for this, we looked first to a document that CMF has published in partnership with the Mayor's Caucus Diversity Issues Task Force called the Immigration Integration Toolkit, looking at strategies and local examples for how this might work in diverse communities. We pulled out one in particular that spoke at the expert panel, the community of Harvard, which has a corner of town that it is looking to better connect to the remainder of its community. It initiated a revitalization strategy that includes capital improvements funded by, and infrastructure improvements funded by McHenry County's Community Development Block Grant Program, as well as a residential empowerment program to bring community-led initiatives into the area. So some possible next steps following the Harvard example. The village can document some of the specific infrastructural and other challenges in these areas to better understand how programs like community development block grants might be most useful to better connect it. And as a big part of that, the village should develop a relationship with Lake County. Similar to McHenry County, Lake County has programs that are federally funded that are intended to be targeted to areas like these. And with a good relationship, it may be possible to make infrastructure improvements in these areas. And then finally, following the Harvard example, it may also be useful to work with community organizations in the area to provide programming, including the renter rights program, which we'll conclude with. Enrique talked at the beginning about seniors aging in their own homes, and I wanted to circle back to that and the connection to Sheridan Road really quickly. There are resources available at the state level to develop senior housing, notably what's called the low-income housing tax credit and a complementary program, the Illinois Affordable Housing Tax Credit. Throughout our region, it has been used to develop senior multifamily housing like you see down at the left-hand corner of your screen. And that may be another development option for Sheridan Road. Additionally, through Community Partners for Affordable Housing, there are programs for folks who are staying in their own homes, staying put, who need some assistance maintaining their properties. It's administered now and can be readily leveraged here in the village. So we suggest connecting with IDA to conduct a housing stock survey and needs assessment of some of the types of housing that might suit the village. We also suggest that the village connect the Illinois Housing Council to connect with senior developers who are experienced with these programs to see if there might be interest on Sheridan Road. And then finally, the organization that I've mentioned a couple of times, Community Partners for Affordable Housing, they are currently administering these funds to help seniors make repairs to their homes. There's ample opportunity to partner with them, and they're a great organization, and I'm sure that they'd love to see the program fund invested in homes in Beach Park. And then as our fourth recommendation, we focused more broadly on home ownership and rehabilitation via multiple platforms. There is a continuum of housing services on top of the home accessibility program that are many of them are managed by Community Partners for Affordable Housing. And they're here on the right. They include home buyer counseling, down payment assistance, home repairs, home accessibility repairs for seniors that mentioned, foreclosure counseling, and any other number of services that can benefit homeowners in the community right now. On top of that, there are mortgage products offered by IDA that they are always innovating that are ideal for borrowers looking to make a down payment. And now is a real opportune time for that, as so many first-time buyers are entering the market. The next steps here are to promote these to your residents. Both of these programs have informational brochures readily available to go up on your website, to go into your front office, possibly be included in your water bills. There's numerous different strategies that you and the village can use to get the word out on these. This funding is out there. It's not fully subscribed. It is there to be connected with your residents. And then finally, I wanted to touch briefly on the Renters' Right program recommendation, which did come up a couple of times in the various meetings. The organization that I mentioned, Community Partners for Affordable Housing, they work with Prairie State Legal Services to provide assistance to renters and to tenants to better understand the rights of both parties and to help lead to good outcomes for all involved. I believe Nancy connected with CPAW before our presentation to confirm, but they would be glad to help arrange a free workshop through them, possibly with Prairie State, to help renters as well as landlords in the community, better understand rights and their relationship with one another. So with that, those were our 5 recommendations. We can certainly dig deeper if you would like. But I think our whole team should probably pause and await your comments and feedback.
Well, we'll open up to any questions that members may have.
I have a question, please.
Go ahead, Linda.
Thank you. The mobile home parks that you were talking about here, what is the percentage in there of homeowners versus renters? Do you have those stats? I'm not seeing it in the package here. I thought that those were owner occupied units, or a lot of the parks were.
Yeah, generally in a mobile home park, they are usually owned, the actual mobile home is owned by the resident and they rent the land that it's
Correct.
sitting. Right, so yes, and I think what came up was to make sure that the public areas are well maintained, and that was one of the issues that I think people talked about as we had our conversations.
Yeah, if I can add to that, so we didn't pull that data at the block or at that level. When we pulled our analysis, we pulled more at the community level. So we didn't pull the renter versus owner occupied in the mobile homes.
All right, I would be curious to know how many are actually owner occupied versus renting. We all know that they have a lot rent that they'll have to pay, but to my understanding, it was a lot of the folks that live in the various parks were actual owners of the units.
Yeah.
I believe it. We do have a chart on the action plan, figure 2. If you look at figure 2, if you have that in hand, it shows a breakdown of renter occupancy versus owner occupancy. And generally, the other type of housing type referred to as other is most of the time is mobile homes and communities. So we can assume that portion or that housing type would be those mobile homes. But again, like Enrique mentioned, we did not pull any data at the block level. Most of the time there's greater margin of error with that data as well too. So there's some discrepancy
Yeah,
there.
I would be curious to see that part of it, because again, I just didn't see it in the package here, and I don't like to assume anything. I like to, just have the facts and have a look at things.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Other questions or discussion?
Yes, I have a question for anyone on the panel, specifically about the recommendation to integrate the mobile home parks with the broader community. Can someone be a little more specific as to how that might be done? In our case, with what we're, in Beach Park.
I think the thrust of it is to consider infrastructure improvements and other investments in the surrounding environment that also could be part of the broader vision for the environment along Sheridan Road. So, for example, during our expert panel, I believe we talked a little bit about a comparable example in Glenview, and if not, maybe Nancy, you can contribute your knowledge from your time as mayor of that community. Where there was a similar mobile home park and some pedestrian improvements made in that particular area, next to another development site that then made that development site more attractive. But that also speaks to the need for a corridor-wide plan, because the context is so different. It's kind of hard to cut and paste an example from one community, from another to another without kind of looking at the general land use environment, etc. So that is broadly what we meant, but that I think it's very much linked to a future corridor plan, to get that specific context.
So
How does
I
the court, sorry.
talking about infrastructure, would a walking path or bike/walking path be along those lines?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I can add a little too. I can tell you, in Glenview, we do have a very large mobile home park as well. It's on off of Waukegan Road, which is also a major arterial that runs through Glenview. And that's on one side of it. And the other side, it actually backs to a very large detention pond. It's part of the Techni Basins that has a beautiful walking and biking trail around it. And they opened up the back of that so that the mobile home park is open as well to that walking trail. And then the front, there's sidewalks along Waukegan Road to allow residents to back and forth if they want.
Yeah, I also struggle with the concept of integration, of better integration of the mobile home parks. In our case, they're separated by Sheridan Road, which is 4 or 5 lanes wide. We have tried to put a crossing in there recently, a pedestrian crossing, but they tend to be isolated. The backside, unlike your Techni retention, is Chicago Northwestern Railroad, so they really are isolated. And to integrate them is going to be a challenge, and to integrate them socially is a challenge. I look at the monthly police reports, and a large number of our police activity is in the mobile home parks, unfortunately. So we have some other issues there as well.
Yeah, and if I can add, one of the things that we heard and during our conversations out there was, sometimes a lot of the residents that live in the mobile parks they're not coming to, your board meetings, village activities, events, things like that. So the toolkit was, something that in Harvard they utilized to, invite them more into the community to participate in things and just have more of that civic engagement within each other. So which is there's a lot of recommendations or just strategies in that toolkit, that bridges that communication between that part of town integrated into the bigger part of the town as well.
Well, mobile home parks tend to be entities on themselves as well. They're privately owned. The streets are owned privately. The water system within there. They restrict solicitation even among the politicians, local politicians. So they tend to be kind of insular, and that's a difficult thing to overcome.
Yeah, it really is. It's a challenge. I know that one of the things we did, we have a youth services in Glenview, and they actually, but the mobile home park has to be accepting of it. They started like a girls club for some of the younger residents with activities that would go on weekends, and we actually built when a development came in adjacent to it of homes. They built a playground there that is accessible to the kids as well. So that, yeah, you're right. They are very insulated, and it's a challenge. But as I said, it's hard. But if there's anything you can do, it really helps.
With respect to the quarter
Well,
plan,
there's a lot of seniors that live
Yeah.
in those units.
Yeah.
And seniors can't get out much.
No, that is true.
with respect to the corridor plan, how do you differentiate that from our zoning plan? We've already established the uses for that area along that corridor, and we strive to attract businesses and so forth, and not so much luck lately, but that it's not for lack of trying.
Enrique, maybe you want to talk about the corridor planning that CMAP does.
Yeah, so our corridor planning plans that we do are more in depth, and usually we bring in a market analysis to figure out what that surplus is and that leakage is, and then create recommendations and strategies that will help you obtain funding for developments to come in. So it's a full-blown planning process as well that engages the community as to what they want to see as well, and then make sure that it aligns with any other planning efforts that have been done in the area. We do have a call for projects every year where we invite everyone within the region to apply for the grant that helps us, helps communities, create these planning endeavors. So, Kyle touched on how we just did the trails plan not too far from where you guys are at. That was a CMAP plan. We have a long range of planning endeavors that we do, but we think that, a corridor plan will really, just get down to that area and do planning efforts, bringing in the community and bringing in the village and making sure that it's all aligned and putting together those recommendations and strategies that will also bring in some funding for that as well.
Okay. Well, we certainly do have opportunity on the Sheridan Road corridor, and the things that struck a chord with me include the senior housing. Certainly, that's a fact. Many of our seniors are moving north of the border for lack of options, and many of their families are following. So there's certainly that trend is going on. But I do know that many of the seniors would prefer to stay in the communities that they've lived in their lives, their whole lives. So certainly that resonates with me, as well as Trustee Jensen brought up, not for lack of trying, but maybe for lack of the integration of the commercial corridor, along with the various forms of residential that are adjacent to it, to try to come up with a plan that would attract some of the developers. We have no shortage of what I would consider low-income housing in Beach Park due to the mobile home parks and some of the areas that we have, neighborhoods that we have within the village. And so when we start hearing about tax credit financing, there's a knee-jerk kind of tension of what that means. But that, in association with a senior development, does bring a different tilt to the whole equation. And our seniors, unfortunately, quickly fall into that low-income category. That client, that senior, that resident still has a lot to offer to our community. So I do think that we have some prime real estate that's ripe for a senior development, large tracts that would be, good for that part of the community. So Yeah, there's some good points here. There certainly are.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really important too, because, as our seniors are, retiring and, jumping on a fixed income, that's really important to make sure that, that there's affordable options based on their fixed income.
Yep.
Right. And I have one more quick question. The demographics, obviously you guys have seen the demographics, how things are changing. And this for anybody on your panel there.
What is your question, Linda?
Yeah, do we, with the demographics and how things are changing, not only in Beach Park, but Illinois in general, because we know that a lot of people are leaving Illinois for whatever reason. What is the percentage of our seniors now that are actually here in Beach Park versus the younger generation? I'm curious about that number. Is there a way to find that out?
Yeah, so if you go to, and I believe it's figure 4 in the action plan. We have a breakdown of by age group, what the percentage is. So
I'm not seeing that. What page is that on? Because I'm not.
Page 4.
Page 4.
Page 4.
Okay. So for the age group of 19 and under, you have 29%. Age group 20 to 34, it's 17%. Age group 35 to 49 is 19%. 50 to 64 is 22%. And 65 and above is 13%. And we've actually compared it to the 2000 census. So you could see the difference there and how it has increased or decreased as well.
Yep, we've seen a significant increase in the 50 plus demographic. Looks like we went from 26% in 2000 to about 35% in 2018. Yeah. So, yep. We're getting older.
All right, so it looks like I actually made the blue bracket, huh?
Very good.
All right, and this was based on the 2000 census?
This is based off of the 2000 census and then the American Community Survey, the 2014-2018, which is when we pulled the data. That's when we were doing the data pull, was during that time. That's what was available.
Oh, okay. So obviously these percentages could change, right?
Yeah.
So
that's
but if you look at
interesting.
the trends, look at the trends and you can kind of see, that trend
I see
line.
it now.
And
yeah.
And I'll put a little plug in for Kyle's. He has an Aging in Place collaborative where he's got quite a few of the communities in the region get together and talk about different ways you can help make your communities more age friendly. And Kyle can talk a little bit more about it, because if Beach Park is not already engaged in it, it might be something they might want to consider.
Sure. We've had a collaborative of many municipalities that have met, to talk about various actions, not just in housing, but also transportation, community safety, health, and civic engagement. I believe we've had Beach Park representatives on our list in the past, and would be pleased to add any representative, elected official or staff to our mailing list.
Good. All right.
Question.
And
I did hear a question, Trustee Wells.
Yes, I was just wondering if the organizations that are collaborating with our village on this particular project have collaborated with other villages with similar challenges, and if so, where and what, how those villages have been faring with those plans?
Well, it's interesting because as you probably know, no two communities are alike, but we have some that are very similar and we have. And I think when you look at it, some of the issues that I think that concerns that they've had that are similar to yours is you have aging is common throughout the whole region, as you know, but also when you look at the houses, some of the houses are aging as well. And as seniors age and their incomes start to become more to the fixed type income, resources may not be as large as they were before. Sometimes there's concern about maintenance of those homes as you have to have your money go a little further. So there's some programs. CPA is actually implementing an IDA program on for rehab for homes, which could be something that community could look into. Because I think one of the things you want to make sure is that your homes are being well maintained, which they generally are. I mean, your community actually, you don't have a lot of major problems that other communities, some do. And I think you have a great community. So your problems aren't as nearly as extreme as we've seen in other communities. So it's just making sure that your community maintains where it is, fills some of the little holes that are there, such as in senior housing that you've already alluded to. Those are the types of things that I think that there is assistance out there. And I will say that even though we have finished this project, we will still be around to help if you need us to help you make connections to some of these projects. Help start getting some of them going. We will be here.
It's part of our funding with our state funder IDA to provide implementation assistance, especially light touch things such as facilitating meetings, helping with grant applications, or introducing staff or anyone interested, to some of the partners that we mentioned. So we're happy to help where we can.
Very good.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
if I can add, I know that we've been having conversations with Andrew in making those connections already. But as the next steps, as it's outlined in the action plan, we're here to facilitate, those conversations if needed, or even just point you in the right direction. So.
Again, are there any success stories of villages with similar challenges, such as i.e. the trailer parks where they've successfully integrated, and if so, where are those, and how's they fare in today's climate?
I don't know that we've had too many communities where that's one of the issues that they've been dealing with. So for us, it was a little bit of a challenge too, because I think as we heard, and you heard, your mobile home parks are kind of uniquely situated with railroad tracks at one end and a major arterial on another end. So it is a little bit more challenging because oftentimes you'll find them on major arterials, but surrounded by slightly different uses. It just depends. So I think it's a little challenging, but certainly if we hear of others, we will certainly pass it along.
Yeah. I will add, Nancy's right. We didn't have a comparable case study, with aside from Glenview, which we talked about a little bit, which has some land use configuration dynamics that are much different. We didn't really have a comparable example to point to on that specific issue. On some of the other issues where we made recommendations, we have worked with some communities that have been successful. So we've recommended senior housing to other communities that are seeing similar dynamics with their seniors looking, needing options to downsize within their communities. Some towns have been successful in attracting them. Mount Prospect comes to mind, which was a Homes for Changing Region community a few years ago. We've also seen some communities build better relationships with their nonprofits and IDA on some of the programs that we mentioned. We worked in Antioch a couple of years ago that came out of it with a strengthened relationship with community partners for affordable housing. And I mentioned that because that's one of the easiest recommendations for towns to follow up on, is just to get the word out on the funding that's out there. And Antioch's not the only one, but we've worked with a number of towns that have been really successful in connecting their residents to some of this existing funding, both for homeowners and for renters.
Okay.
Also, again, you mentioned in your documentation that the focus on housing and commercial development. At what point along the process would one typically assume that one might be able to engage in commercial development in the overall project? I know, again, the housing would obviously come first, my assumption, but at what point would one suspect that we might be able to start integrating or pursuing some commercial development to bolster the overall development?
I'll answer and let my colleagues see if they have any more thoughts, but I think that's one of the main reasons for the corridor plan, is to answer that specific question. Yeah, obviously retail follows rooftops, maybe not obviously, but that is a common adage. That kind of market analysis is beyond our scope, but that is one of the questions that a corridor plan could take head on and give the village some direction on.
Yeah, Kyle, definitely for sure the market analysis, both on the commercial and the housing needs side will help identify that process and which steps to take and how to take them. So.
Okay.
Good.
Are there any initial outlay of cash that the village would have to engage in to start this process to move forward?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question.
Are there any financial outlays that the village would be responsible for in order to start the process as far as the pursuing, moving the process along as far as the study?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think one of the things that we could do is we have a call for projects every year, and we haven't, for this year, we did a very small call for projects. So we usually have a call for projects in October. So come October, that'll be the time to look at for the call for projects for CMAP, and then you could apply for the funding through there. If you're granted the grant to do local planning in your community, then we could start that process with what it would look like as far as funding, how much we would be able to offer you as well. So.
Thank you.
Great. Very good. Well, I want to thank you for your time tonight and for the thoroughness of your presentation and your patience with our questions. And obviously, between staff and committees, we'll try to digest and I think that recommendation for the call for projects coming up in the fall, Andrew can kind of keep his eye on that target, and we'll see if that fits and makes sense.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. I appreciate it. You're welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting, but it probably won't be nearly as exciting as this was.
Well, I was going to present my resolutions through interpretive dance.
Oh, well, then you might want to wait for this one.
Yeah, I'd just like to add my own appreciation to the panel and just mention that this is an effort that they have been engaged in with Beach Park almost an entire year.
Yep.
We started that project last March, as was mentioned, and then everything kind of blew up, right? And, we had to start over, everybody had to start over and reinvent the wheel to some degree. But, I really appreciate the big picture vision that you've given us, because often, speaking for myself, you live it day to day and you look at it all the time and you can't picture how it could be different, or it just seems monumental.
Right.
And you don't know where to start, but you ought to do something, but how do you do that? So I think it's really helpful to us, to say the least. And I hope that we can draw on your expertise in the future. I think that would be most valuable to us, because, we're a small village. We haven't been in existence that long. 1989 is when we were formed. And so we have changed a lot. And speaking for myself, I think we have a lot more growing to do. And I'd like to get some guidance along the way. So thank you again, all of you, for giving up your time and helping.
Yep. Very good.
Well, it's been a pleasure working here, and thank you.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Well, then we'll move on to Public Safety Committee.
Well,
Trustee.
I have one more item.
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, yeah.
Take all the time you need.
Well, this is just a quick one. A meeting or so ago, I asked about census data and when we might be expected to receive that. And I got some updated information from Adrian earlier in the week. And apparently we were expecting to get the data around July 31st, as municipalities would get from regarding their local counts. But now we have learned that the Census Bureau has pushed it out even later, and the new deadline for the data is September 30th. So we have a ways to go before we'll learn anything more.
2029, right? You're talking about, yeah.
No. Let's not go there. So that addresses that question. And with that, I end my report. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll move on then to Trustee Siddick.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just have a couple of things. Quick question. I don't know if Mark or anybody, I just would like an update on the property on Green Bay Road from the structure fire. Do we have an update as to what's going on there? Because I've seen things that are not cleaned up, so I don't know if there's an investigation going on or why that isn't cleaned up.
You're talking Green Bay and Beach. I don't know if, maybe Andrew, if you have
Correct.
any ideas, the status.
We have a open enforcement item that we have in branch court that we pushed for the next month. The family members have been working with their insurance company to have the insurance company fund the demolition of the remaining structure. So it's slow going, and we've been in touch with them from time to time to make sure that they are still working with their insurance company.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. And is the sheriff's office with us this evening?
I don't see anyone on from the sheriff's office.
Okay, is the fire chief with us?
No.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. That ends my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to Public Works, Trustee Otterson promised us some interpretive dance.
I was just seeing if you were paying attention.
I
really haven't prepared a routine.
We have the camera ready.
Yeah. Adrian, my choreographer, and he says I still have some work to do.
Okay, maybe next
Maybe
meeting.
next time.
Okay.
Thank you. We have two resolutions on the agenda for tonight. The first one is just kind of a simple something we renew every 2 years. It's for working in IDOT right-of-ways. When there's emergency work to be done, rather than having to supply a bond in the whole permitting process, we can do the emergency work. They just ask that we have a resolution in place supporting that process. There is a sample resolution in here, and I think we've been passing it every other year for quite some time, so there's nothing changed. So I'll make a motion that we pass a resolution for construction on state highway right-of-ways.
I will second it.
We have a motion by Trustee Otterson, second by Trustee Gust. Discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Otterson,
Aye.
Trustee Siddick,
Aye.
Trustee Wells,
Aye.
Trustee Gust,
Aye.
Trustee Jensen,
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Motion carries, and that is resolution number,
1.
dang it. All right. Broke the ice on
It's
resolutions.
a good one for number one. And now let's beat that with number two, shall we?
I'll,
This next resolution is something that the state also requires that we pass a resolution supporting the spending of our allocation of motor fuel tax money for our upcoming street maintenance road resurfacing program for the 2021 season. So I will make a motion that we approve resolution for spending $515,000 of MFT funds for the 2021 MFT road improvement project.
we have a motion by trustee Addison. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Miller. Discussion? I see the list of roads on there, and I think most of them, if not all of them, are definitely in dire need, so it's good. All right. Any other discussion? All right, would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Siddick,
Aye.
Trustee Wells,
Aye.
Trustee Gust,
Aye.
Trustee Jensen,
Aye.
Trustee Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Addison.
Aye.
Resolution number 2 passes.
That is the conclusion of my portion of tonight's entertainment.
All right, well, we're looking forward to that next meeting dance that you'll be doing.
Yeah, I'll
Thank
work
you.
on it.
Okay.
Me and Adrian will be all over.
I have no report for the TIF committee. Do we have any staff reports?
On that resolution that you just passed, we did have the bid opening today for the project.
Oh,
And Adrian, do you want to share some of the details?
how'd it go?
Under budget,
Under.
yes, so.
So we'll keep Chris around for another year.
Peter Baker, essentially, it's still being evaluated, but we had 3 bidders that came forward and bid, Peter Baker, Payne and Dolan, and Schroeder. Again, Schroeder was from last year. All 3 bids were under budget, and our village engineer is going through the process of, qualifying the bids, make sure everything looks good. But
Is there
all
a parent low bidder at this time?
parent low bidder would be
Peter Baker.
Peter Baker, yes.
Excellent.
Excellent is right.
All right. Very good. Anything else from staff?
No,
All
thank
right.
you.
I will then move on to old business. I don't see any on the agenda. We do have one item of new business, and I will turn that back to our administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a resolution authorizing an amended and restated lease agreement with DRA Properties for telecommunication facilities. That's essentially the cell tower that has been planned for behind the Speedway. Verizon was delaying moving forward with the site, so we took the opportunity to work with this site developer, Mr. Dolan. He's on the call tonight. And correct some of the issues with the lease, just specifically the fact of vacating the property and not constructing it on right away. So the village is the property owner for that right away. And essentially the lease is the same as what was previously done with the village back in 2019. And this just changes the lease to show that the village is the property owner and it's not being constructed on the right of way.
All right. We have a resolution before us. I'll restate it. Resolution authorizing an amended and restated lease agreement with DRA Properties LLC for telecommunications facilities on the vacated Ruth Avenue right-of-way. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Gus, second by trustee Addison. Discussion? Have we heard a start date yet, or?
Tomorrow, they're very anxious to get going,
Okay.
but no, I'm exaggerating, but yeah, very soon.
Excellent. All right. Any other discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Wells,
Aye.
Trustee Gust,
Aye.
Trustee Jensen,
Aye.
Trustee Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Addison,
Aye.
Trustee Sittig.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. That's resolution 3. We went from 0 to 3, just like that. Wow. All right, moving on to item 9, which is citizens wishing to address the board. This would be any and all comers on any and all topics. All I would ask that you would do is unmute yourself, get recognized, state your name and your case. All right. Not hearing any. We have no cause tonight for an executive session. We're down to item 12.
Mayor,
Yes,
it'd be my honor to offer a motion to adjourn.
we have a motion by trustee Jensen.
Mayor,
Huh?
second by Sittig.
We have a second by trustee Siddick. Oh, Mayor, call the roll. Clerk, call the roll.
Fast, hurry up.
Jensen and Sig, last words, right?
Yep. Mary Jo, please proceed.
Trustee Gust,
Aye.
trustee Jensen,
Aye.
trustee Miller,
Aye.
trustee Addison,
Hey.
trustee Sittig, and trustee Wells.
It gets better and better, I tell you. I mean, who wouldn't love this?
Got to keep it fun during a COVID season, right?
Right. All right. Thank you all. We are adjourned.
Mayor,
Thank you. Good night, ladies.
Everybody have a good one.
hey, Mayor.
You too.